Hey, this is Coach Chall and welcome to another video. Now, this is another of my Coach Chall reviews. As you've probably seen by now, I've sort of changed one of the old debate time videos, my review of Wicker Man at Alton Towers, and I've put it on this brand new playlist called Coach Chall Reviews. Now, that is the brand new series that was supposed to start in the summer. However, I just came back from York yesterday and I did the brand new updated York Dungeons for January 2019. So I decided to take a few notes before and after the experience, and I've decided to review it. Now, first of all, I've got to say, if you're watching this, anyone who was acting or the staff members that were working on the day I was there yesterday as of recording this, well done. You delivered a brilliant experience. But now I'm going to get on with my review. So if you don't know what the York Dungeon is, it's 75 minutes worth of 10 live shows. Now, compared to previous years, there were some big changes. One big change is the brand new show, Clitheroe. That sort of changed I think it's King Limero's Labyrinth. I think it's Limero, but it's King Limero's Labyrinth that was there last year. And they sort of changed that. They've had like a little pre-show bit at the start of that. And instead of going through the mirror maze, you sort of get trapped in this little bit. But I'm gonna get onto that when I get to it. So how this is gonna work, apart from the pre-show, which is like the waiting area before you go in, and the gift shop, which is known as the tavern, I'll be giving each of these a rating out of 10. So that means there's 10 live shows I'm going to be giving a rating out of, which means it's going to be overall out of 100. But each individual of the 10 shows is out of 10. So we're going to get straight on with this, but first of all I have to say the pre-show. I haven't rated it, but I've got to say it was a decent pre-show and a decent waiting area. You know, it was barely lit. There was like little candles. I think you can barely see the fire exit sign up in the top. But I've got to say as well, if anyone's watching this who was there with me yesterday on the experience, who was in my group, the 1 o'clock group, you were amazing. You were very nice, very friendly people, so thank you very much for sharing the experience with me. So let's move on then to the first of the shows. Now, this is Fear the Vikings. Now, I think this has been around for a while. It's literally one actor sort of involving the audience, picking someone out, sort of, I can't remember the woman's name that they picked out in my group, but yeah, they like sort of picked her out and they told them to go through a secret entrance, like she wasn't really like worth it, trying to sort of get rid of the Vikings, so they sort of sentenced her through this secret passageway, which led to the next room, which I'll go on about later. They also picked another guy out and told him to lift the chest, and it was very weak. So it was great. It was a great laugh, that scene. The acting quality was good, and in terms of the theming, you know, there was thunderous strobes outside the windows, and the banging on the doors from the Vikings when you go through. It was a decent attraction. So the woman went into the passageway first, and then when the doors started battling the front door, like I think it was like the church opening door. There was like a banging noise, so she sort of covered up the door and she told us to go through the secret passageway where the other woman went a few minutes ago, before. So we went through. So that was Fear the Vikings. That was just a taste of what Vengeance of the Vikings was going to be. So for that, I'm going to give it a good, for Fear the Vikings, a 6 out of 10. I'm going to give it 6 out of 10 because it was a decent build-up, good setup for the following scene. Again, great acting quality, and the moving doors was my highlight, as well as the thunderous strobes and the theming. It was like the pre-show, like the waiting area theming. It was like 13 style cobweb theming. I was expecting the shockwave bolt to go off like it does in the queue line 13 at Alton Towers. But yeah, 6 out of 10 for the Vikings. And then you move through to Vengeance of the Vikings. Now, this is all about Odin. Hey, Odin! That was the thing we had to chant. So we were standing in a room, sort of, it was like a projection on the floor, And the actor was telling us about the story. The woman that came through earlier in the passageway before the rest of the group, she was actually in a barrel, and she was told she was going to get destroyed by a pit of vipers. And then she said, we were all going to get destroyed by a pit of vipers. And then, out of nowhere, the floor sort of tilted a bit. I was thinking to myself, should I hold on to something? Is the floor going to tilt that much? So it was quite unexpected. I forgot what happened in that section, to be honest, because I hadn't been for a couple of years, so I sort of didn't experience it last year or the year before. It was like the year before the flood and the year after the flood where I last experienced it. So I managed to do both versions, but I'm sure there's been updates since then. So back on track. So the floor sort of tilted a bit when the vipers started coming out of the ground on the projection. There was projections on the wall when she was telling us the story beforehand as well. There was moving doors to the side. And to be fair, she did say at the start, anyone who's got back or neck problems or is pregnant should go to the side. And I think a couple of people had like leg or back or neck problems. Either that or they just didn't want to experience the harsh realities of the Vikings. But there was a few people that sort of stood in the corner away from the little I'll call it a mini attraction, but I'll call it a moving floor. So for Vengeance of the Vikings, for all of that, and the great acting quality, brilliant acting quality, not going to lie, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for Vengeance of the Vikings. Not the strongest, but it's definitely not the weakest. That's to come in a little bit. But then we move on to one of the highlights of the trip, and that is the Plague Doctor. Now, the acting quality in that, I applaud the actor. I absolutely applaud the actor from the Plague Doctor. You were brilliant, very funny, very witty, and you got me splattered. So I accept that. So basically, the Plague Doctor, if you don't know what's going on, they pick a member of the audience to go and sit in the chair to the side. You've got a body, someone, I can't remember if it's a general or something, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but they have this body laid out. They pick a member for the audience to sit in the chair. That comes into play later. And he sort of does like different things, sort of messes with different bits and bobs. And then he goes to the guy in the chair. He shuts the curtain. He wants to sort of release all the bad blood, I think it is, or just the bad spirits. He pretends to beat him over the head, but it looks like he is actually beating him in the head, but I think it's just like a trick. I think he's just banging the chair instead of him, and he's just told to make a noise. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but the final bit is actually ripping something out, and then blood splatters, I think it's like a water splash effect, and it sprayed me all over my face. I was right in line with the spray this time. Every time I've been in that bit, I was either to the side or just far away to the side, but I only caught a little bit of it. I caught the full effect of it. It was, oh man. It was wetter than one of the water sprays on Valhalla at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It really, really was. So overall then, for the acting quality, the brilliant theming, there's some brilliant theming, and of course the water spray effect, the nice interaction with the audience as well. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. I think the Plague Doctor is one of the strongest scenes in the dungeons. Now we move on to the Golden Fleece. Now this is all about the story of the drunken hangman in the pub. The acting quality was brilliant, and then out of nowhere at the end of the scene she disappeared, and then it was the projection. I send thee to hell. It was brilliant. The projection was really good, and then the projection faded out, and then a new projection came through that was sort of scarier. And then I think it was send thee to hell, and then there was like either a jet spray or like a smoke machine kind of thing going through the gap, and it just sprayed open without any warning, so I was kind of jump scared by that. So a brilliant jump scare there. So overall then for the Golden Fleece, with the effects, the projection, the acting quality, and the smoke machine, I'm going to give that 7 out of 10. I think what we could do with the Golden Fleece is maybe have some more effect. I don't know if it's possible, but maybe build another layer onto the ceiling, but that one be like a collapsing roof effect. Like the spirits have sort of collapsed the roof. I don't know if that's possible, if you can put an effect on there. I know you've got the ceiling itself, but if you put like an extra layer on above it that's like an effective, like not an actual roof, but like an effect, so it feels like the roof's caving in. I don't know if you can do that, but I'm sure there's some other effects you can do with that. So overall, though, I was very impressed. But another thing I was very impressed by is the brand new show about Margaret Clitheroe, who was, of course, murdered for being a Catholic. So they sort of told us in this little pre-show bit all about Margaret Clitheroe, and then the police start knocking on the door. Then you're sort of told to go down into the cellar, and that is where the old King Limrose Labyrinth was. So King Limrose Labyrinth was the old attraction, that the old Mirror Maze sort of thing from last year, but now it's been incorporated into this brand new show. So instead of going completely through the Mirror Maze, you actually stay in a certain bit. And to be fair, I asked the person next to me, are we supposed to stay here? Are we supposed to move forward? And it looked like we had to stay. But I still wasn't completely sure at this point. Heard lots of different noises, and then suddenly smoke comes pouring in at the top corner. The room fills with smoke, lights breaking, and then loads of banging effects. And then we're told to sort of get out of the mirror maze. It wasn't even that big of a mirror maze. I think it was deliberately not big because I wanted to stay in that bit for those effects and then move forward to the next scene, which was decent of them. So for that one, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 because I think they used the mirror maze to its full potential, and it was a good pre-show bit as well, especially with the banging noise. You know, that really scared me because I didn't expect a banging noise, especially with it being a new show. But in terms of it being a new show in the dungeons, I think they've done a really good job with it, and I think it's a really good addition to your dungeons. And I hope it stays and keeps getting updated. Now, moving on then to the Gunpowder Plot. This is the talking head scene with Guy Fawkes and John Riot, and unfortunately for me, I didn't enjoy this scene at all. I gave it 6 out of 10 at best. I mean, the script was alright, but you know, it hasn't been changed, that scene, for a long time, and I'm not saying get rid of the Gunpowder Plot and Guy Fawkes because he's York born, but I don't think the talking heads work. I don't think that scene works anymore. In my personal opinion, I don't think that. Don't get me wrong, the acting quality and the scripts and everything is brilliant, but like it feels like it just hasn't been updated. Like, it just felt like me standing here listening to a conversation. I laughed at a few bits, but I don't know. It just didn't feel. It didn't feel sparking new and updated. So I didn't feel as in tune with this scene as I was with the other scenes. So that's why I sort of lost touch with that scene a bit. Don't get me wrong, the acting quality again was brilliant and the script was cleverly written, but I think with that one, I think if you are going to keep using the Gunpowder Plot, I think rip out the talking heads and do a new scene. I think it's best if we do a new scene. Like, I know I'm going to mention about the new Highwayman scene, but I think what you could have done then with the hanging scene, don't get me wrong, the hanging scene, the old Dick Turpin hanging scene was brilliant, with the seats moved and the blood was splattering. What if you could do that with Guy Fawkes, but instead, not like the hanging scene, but like, I don't know, it feels, I don't know, like bring back the hanging scene but for Guy Fawkes in that sort of room, but I wouldn't do like benches where the seats moved. I'd actually do a full on, like, I don't know if you'll have the space for it, but either do some kind of seated lap bar thing where the seats will actually be pushed forward. Like, imagine the seats are there. Imagine you're sitting there and you've got the Guy Fawkes scene going on in front of you, and then what if you had the lap bar, so you were perfectly secured. You keep your bags in a bagging area near the exit towards this scene, but if you had like the seats, and it felt like you were Guy Fawkes and you were being hanged for your crimes, if the seats sort of tilted 90 degrees, so you were literally facing straight down. Of course, it won't be for everyone. You know, if you have back, neck, or leg problems, or pregnant, obviously you'll be taken towards an alternate route round the scene. Brilliantly themed. You don't want people with those problems to miss out on the experience, but I wouldn't. I would update that scene, but I'd keep the Gunpowder Plot theme. But for those of you who haven't got the problems, I would have that scene where you're literally lap barred in and you're about to literally tilt forward as if you're being hanged, and like a projection on the floor, like a rush of blood. I don't know, just something massively done needs to be updated to that scene for me to like it, so, in my personal opinion. So, I don't know, just some ideas to take forward if you're watching this Merlin Entertainments. But let's move on now to the torturer. Now, that was a decent scene. It wasn't necessarily about the comedy much. I know they were picking people out of the audience and stuff like that, but the acting quality was good, especially with the chappy chopper. I won't tell you what that's for. But no, it was a decent scene. I mean, the woman that got picked on a lot, a couple of times already, was put into the cage for most of the scene, so she got picked on again. But no, I think the torturer was a good scene, great acting quality. I think put a few more effects in there, like maybe a blood splatter when they use the chappy chopper. Maybe change the room temperature a bit, make it seem like it's hot and sweaty, like it is in like a dungeon, like in a torture chamber. Do some like room temperature with it, like the Valhalla room temperature scene when they changed it to -20 or whatever it was. Do that, but on the up, so people get hot, people get sweaty, so you sort of indulged into the torture chamber. But for now, I'm going to give that room 7 out of 10. Excuse me. Now we'll move on to the courtroom. Now this was a very decent scene as well. The judge warned me about going onto the stands, but thank God he didn't pick me. However, he did involve me in one of the storylines, funnily enough. Now, one of the people that was told to sit at the stand said, "On this given night, you stole my money," and he was pointing at me, so I had no idea. This came out of nowhere. And I stayed silent, and he was like, "Oh, the silent treatment. Very good." Something on the lines of that. But it was very comical, very, very good. There was no effects, but I don't think that room needs any effects, to be honest. It's a courtroom. You know, you're supposed to indulge the courtroom. So, again, 7 out of 10, decent room. Now we move on to execution. Great acting. The woman who was the executioner's assistant, the main actor in the scene, you were brilliant. Some great effects, but I thought when you do the execution, turn the lights off and have that blood splatter effect, that water spray. Have that water spray from different sides of the room, because I think that will be a decent addition to the scene, because it's like whooshing, head gone, blood splatter. You know, there was blood on the gallows where she laid her head in that neck bit. There was blood when it finished, but you know, have that blood splatter effect, have that gore element to it, because it's not supposed to be a very family event, but it's still got to have a mixture. So for that, I'm going to give it 7.5 out of 10. I think it was just above the 7 rated scenes. But now we move on to the final scene, and this already gets 10 out of 10. It is the change to the Highwayman. Oh my god, best scene by a merry mile. I think it was brilliant. So basically, this is a brand new change, so if you're going to your dungeons in future and you don't want this scene spoiled, just go now. But yeah, the change to the Highwayman. Now, I was a bit sceptical when I saw that when I heard from the staff member before I went in, that they removed the Dick Turpin Handman scene, because every time I've been to the York Dungeon, that's the only Dick Turpin scene I was used to. I was used to sitting on that bench, Dick Turpin getting processed, saying his final words, him getting hanged, lights come off, blood splatter, the benches move side to side, and then you exit. You know, I was used to that scene. It was one of my favourite scenes in the dungeons. That has been topped by the updated version. So basically, again, spoiler alert for this one. So basically, when you go into the carriage, the actress, it was an actress, I don't know if it's an actor for other groups, but it was an actress in our group. She locked the door, asked a few questions, you know, got to know the group a bit, and then the carriage stopped, and then she sort of banned, like, driver, what's going on? And then the lights went off, and then it came back on, and it turns out Dick Turpin was surrounding the carriage. Now, he warned us to give up our belongings. Very good audio. It wasn't an actor going round, it was audio. We kind of knew it was audio. But it was sort of going around like, don't say I didn't warn you, lights come off, and then we sort of get this breaking noise, and then the actress comes back in, locks the door, sends the carriage on its way, and then the lights come off again, and then the seats, instead of moving side to side, the seats actually tilt forwards, which I absolutely loved. I didn't expect it. I thought I was going to slip off the carriage. It was brilliant. 10 out of 10. Best scene by a merry mile. And then, of course, after that, the actress sort of says, I hope you've enjoyed your dungeon experience. Then you move into the tavern, which is the gift shop. There was some decent merch in there, but I didn't really purchase anything because I had to get back in time. So there we go. So overall then, with all those ratings, I counted it up and I gave it a 73.5 rating out of 100. Strongest version of the dungeons in my opinion. Obviously the talking heads I said needs to be changed rapidly. Maybe a couple of other effects in other rooms just to make it that little bit better than it already is. But strongest version of the dungeons in my opinion. I think your dungeon have done a fantastic job with that. The creative team have done a fantastic job with it. So congratulations to Melon Entertainment, she thoroughly deserved this. Again, just heed my advice, in my opinion. A few more effects here and there on the scenes just to make it a little bit better. Carriage scene, leave it as it is for now. If it starts to get a bit if it starts to get a bit tiresome, then update it a bit, bring in some new audio, bring some new effects. I think you could do some really good stuff with that. I'm not sure how the carriage works. I think it was like a simulator or something. I don't know. I don't know if it's like a simulator mini attraction inside the building. Because like we had so much space when we entered. And then by the end of the carriage we were sort of getting off. There was hardly any space to the side. So I don't know if it was like a simulator, like it was moving up a carriage. Maybe it was one of those dynamic simulator train kind of things from KV Design Works. I don't know. Just going off the top of my head there. Excuse me. Got the real coughs today. But yeah, I'm really happy with this version of the York Dungeon. Strongest dungeon in my opinion, but again, there was those few changes here and there. And the Gunpowder Plot, keep the Gunpowder Plot, keep Guy Fawkes almost indefinitely, but just change the scene. I think that scene's getting tiresome. Maybe, like I said with my idea, do Guy Fawkes hanging and your Guy Fawkes being handy, sort of restrained into this sort of seating area with the lap bar. Maybe even over the vest restraints if you're going to use it. If you had the space and it wasn't just like a lap bar and you're going to get tilted forward 90 degrees, maybe you could, if you've got the space for it, maybe even do like a Nemesis Subterra ABC drop tower system, like you're about to be hanged at the gallows. Maybe actually rename it the Gunpowder Plot, the Gallows, and have that drop tower system right at the top. Have like a staircase going to the top, and then wherever the room is, and then have the drop tower system going in, and then you sort of drop down like you're being hanged at the gallows, and then you're being collected, ready to be taken into the next scene. I don't know, but that scene's the one that needs to be changed in my opinion. But apart from that, a few little effects here and there for the other scenes that I mentioned. But apart from that, strongest version of the dungeons. So thank you very much for watching my review of the York Dungeons. Of course, when I experience more new attractions, more theme park trips, because it won't be just new attractions and updated attractions that I'll be reviewing in this playlist. I'll be reviewing theme park trips. I think I'll go to Alton Towers in the summer, so I'll be doing a separate review of that. Sort of let you know on what's been happening. I'll be reviewing different stuff as well. Obviously you've got the news playlists as well and the rumours playlist with debate time, so I hope you guys are excited for that. But for now, thank you very much for watching episode 2 of Coast Chall Reviews. I'll see you next time when I review an attraction, but for now, my name is Coaster Chall. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss a video. Keep living the coast life, my dudes, and I'll see you guys in the next video soon. Take care, have an awesome day, my friends.
Please stand clear. The gates are about to close. Your ride on Colossus is about to begin. Keep your arms inside the train, your feet on the floor, and brace yourselves at all times. Keep your arms inside the train, your feet on the floor, and brace yourselves at all times.